Morning arrives and you already feel wiped out. Your body manages to stand, but it feels as though your thoughts are dragging iron weights behind them. The sun is barely up, yet head, chest, and even the quiet around you feel unbearably heavy. Nothing looks strange in the room. Work still waits, and your phone buzzes with great chances that are really just new tasks. Everything and everyone cheers. Come on, you've got this. Here's the part nobody explains. This isn't ordinary tiredness. What you're feeling is an illness that spreads through the whole culture. In past times, suffering wore a clear face. Factory whistles, shouting bosses, locked gates. Today, control hides behind an invitation to shine. An inaudible voice inside now orders you to crank out more, aim higher, move faster, never pause. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls our age the achievement society. Outwardly, we look freer than ever, yet the trap is tighter. Every second must be productive, every breath must pay off. Rest feels like failure, and forced cheerfulness turns into poison. What once looked like freedom becomes an invisible pair of handcuffs. Do you feel guilty when you aren't producing? Uneasy if you don't answer messages right away? Upset when you fall short of goals you set for yourself? Goals nobody else even asked for? That's more than stress or simple fatigue. It's deep down burnout, the kind that hollows you out while you keep smiling on the surface. If this rings true, it isn't by chance. You're tangled in the very system that breeds the sickness and then calls it normal. So let's pause. You're not weak. You're someone trying to stay afloat in a world that harms people who act strong nonstop. Breathe. We can talk about it. You're not facing this alone. Once upon a time, power barked commands. There were prisons, barracks, assembly lines, asylums, clear places of sit, be quiet, obey. Michel Foucault described that era as the disciplinary society. Back then, an external authority said, "You can't," and made sure you complied. Those walls have mostly come down. In their place stands a subtler, sharper regime. Nobody forbids anything now. Instead, they insist you can do everything. Limitless potential, endless horizons, just work harder, focus more. Sounds upbeat, almost liberating, yet it hides a trap. When success is totally up to you, every stumble is your fault as well. This is the core of the performance-driven culture Han writes about. The prison cell has no bars, it has targets. Punishment isn't physical, it's the gnawing voice labeling you lazy, behind, never enough. You have been turned into the manager of your own enterprise, and an enterprise never clocks out. There is always room to scale, optimize, squeeze one extra task in, an endless race with no finish line and no break. If mornings feel heavy, if nights offer no rest, remember, the problem is not just inside you, it is woven into the rules of a society that celebrates endless motion. Seeing that truth is the first step toward loosening its grip. Ever notice how even your downtime got turned into another objective to hit? Picking up a book is only worthy if it's productive reading. Sitting quietly must double as a performance hack. Working out feels like an obligatory assignment. Even going to bed becomes a campaign. You track sleep cycles, tally minutes, tweak evening rituals. Relaxation stops being a break. It becomes staging for tomorrow's output. You're not simply living, you're self-managing. And when something slips, fatigue, illness, paralysis, shutdown, you aim the accusation at yourself, because supposedly nothing and no one forbade you. You were free. You had options. All it asked was more effort. That's the twist. A fresh style of domination persuades you that you volunteered for it. Oversight changed costume. It stepped out of the manager's office and settled inside your thoughts. You now pace the corridor as both inmate and guard. The barrier can't be seen, yet it stands, mortared with targets, tracking apps, output graphs, relentless self-pressure. Harder to shatter, too, because the seams between me and system blur away. If this internal squeeze is crushing you, the structure itself is off. Living in civil war with your own feelings isn't natural. That quiet war etches itself into mind, body, and whatever you call your inner core. That's where we're heading next. This draining weariness that eats at you isn't an invading army. It rises inside, nourished by something that looks harmless, an overdose of forced upbeatness. If any of this resonates and you feel like sticking around, you can always follow along. Thanks for caring enough to listen. You train yourself to grin while fragments fall inward, to answer all good while standing at the edge, to project composure, speed, sparkle, though every fiber begs for a halt. Why? Because we're soaked in a new soft violence. It doesn't strike, bark orders, or slam doors. It charms, coaxes, pumps you up. It's the aggression of compulsory positivity. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han points out, our age is no longer ruled chiefly by illnesses born of repression. We're not centered on bans, heavy censorship, external iron limits. Today the sickness isn't a loud, you must not. It's the non-stop, of course you can. What hollows us out isn't old-school coercion, but bombardment, surplus stimulation, surplus seeming liberty, surplus cheerful demands. The script now: keep smiling, keep delivering, keep sharpening, keep rejoicing, non-stop. That surplus exacts a steep price. Depression, attention difficulties, anxiety, burnout, these are no longer isolated personal defects. They register as collective signals, psychic alarms from bodies and minds that can't shoulder perpetual performance. Cruelly, inside this setup, you swap the role of harmed person for that of culprit. Didn't hit output today? Sloth. Low drive. Poor focus. Near breaking point? Must be ingratitude. Skipped gratitude journaling. Skipped stretching. Skipped another masterclass. Fault loops back to you. This is how sugar-coated positivity sickens. It forbids limits, rejects missteps, rejects sorrow, quiet, deceleration. The harder you contort to fit the glossy mold of ever-cheerful productivity, the more distance opens between you and yourself. You mutate into a motivational mascot while the interior caves in. Positivity shifted from option to command. All day you're peppered with chirpy slogans, variations on "have faith in yourself," "just desire it enough," "unlock your ultimate self." They sound soft, maybe uplifting. Their side effect is different, a chronic sense of insufficiency. You rarely feel complete. You resist genuine rest because there's eternally another tweak, fix, acceleration waiting. Your world fills with targets, dashboards, benchmarks, comparisons, scrolling feeds, office scorecards, even supposed moments of play. A flood of inputs is not making you tougher, it's draining you. It's like being stuck on a belt that keeps speeding up, and you're convinced you were the one who started it, only you weren't. Nobody arrives in the world programmed to stay on permanent lookout. This setup was built around you, and it slowly hollows you out. Under the rush, the haste, the constant producing, lies something covered over, an inner room you forgot how to enter. That faint part is gasping, neglected, dismissed, and maybe it's the only part that can still mend the rest. So let's finally bring in the things you pushed out: quiet, stillness, empty moments. Have you noticed how lately almost everything is treated like an upgrade cycle? You stopped being simply a human. You got recast as a venture, a pitch, a label, an asset that must iterate, relaunch, polish, promote. Not mainly because you freely chose it, but because if you don't, you fear being filtered out, tagged as slow, outdated, uninteresting. Here's the twist. The pressure no longer needs a manager, a state, some visible overseer. It settled inside. You turned yourself into your own project manager and your own punisher. Think of what Byung-Chul Han points to: turning exploitation inward. No supervisor needed. You set the targets, you enforce them, you hand out the penalties. Get more done became the new obedience. It feels like freedom because you can select goals, invent ideas, chase dreams. Yet the menu sends you to one destination: increase pace, raise output, stretch further. Even what once felt like shelter or sacred ground got folded into performance metrics. Your body is treated like hardware to tune. Your mind is a dashboard for tracking milestones. Friendships morph into contacts to leverage. Spiritual seeking mutates into another self-improvement module. Breaks shrink into battery swaps so you can resume producing. Free hours are mined, measured, optimized. You are both the company and its lone staff member. No organism can uphold that forever. You can feel the strain. Not only muscle tiredness, but a thinning of being. You appear everywhere except in your own center. You keep operating, yet rarely living. And the harder you mold yourself into the success template, the more distant your own core feels. So ask the brave questions. What slipped away while you chased daily upgrades of you? What voice got muted? What pieces were set aside? There may be a layer in you that hardly remembers existing without needing to defend its right to exist. Next, we'll step into that overlooked interior, into the hush you flee, the emptiness you label waste, and the act of simply gazing, that nearly extinct capacity you might most need now. You were never meant to be merely a tiny gear. You were made to feel, to notice, to be. When did you last allow yourself to literally do nothing? Not plan, not reply, not scroll, not justify? Just inhale, exhale, and feel minutes move without branding them lost. Maybe that skill has atrophied, and that is not a personal defect. You were conditioned to remain on, reachable, responsive. Any gap is instantly stuffed with a ping, a task, a clip, a pep quote, a "let me just finish this first." Fun became unproductive. Quiet became awkward. Idleness turned into an intruder to chase away. Here is a rarely voiced truth. Deep, unhurried boredom is not a malfunction. It is a doorway. As Byung-Chul Han notes, in earlier times that spacious boredom nourished creation, reflection, authentic presence. Out of that soil grew philosophy, art, spiritual depth. That slow, uncomfortable boredom that forces you to encounter yourself opens the field where contemplation can sprout. And contemplation regrounds your humanity. Now, instead, attention is splintered. We hop from queue to queue like prey animals in danger. Doing many things at once stopped being a proud talent. It became a reflex to cope. You stream a clip while firing off replies, while forecasting tomorrow's agenda, while feeling guilty you aren't squeezing in extra tasks. These days, the present moment can feel like a burden. Our minds race non-stop, and that constant buzz demands a fee. It steals the sense of depth that lets us feel truly linked to life, to other people, and to our own inner world. We end up skimming over everything, even our feelings. We notice them, but we don't sink into them. We think, but we don't explore. We move through the day, but we rarely settle in and occupy it. Because of that, we wake up tired, though we slept all night, feel uneasy when no one is speaking, and sense loneliness in a crowded room. The heart has learned to sprint, but has forgotten how to stand still, and standing still is not weakness. It is a way to come home. In quiet, you can hear what the rush drowns out. In a pause, you can see the bruises busyness keeps hidden. In the empty space, you meet the person you are beneath all the layers of tasks and targets, yet choosing to slow down takes nerve. You need courage to step outside the swirl, to face the odd shock of nothing to do, to stay inside the blankness until it turns into fresh ground. Most of all, you need courage to push back against the constant call to perform. That idea leads to one of Byung-Chul Han's most daring thoughts. Real freedom can appear in the simple act of not being able. It sounds strange, but it may be the only real escape from the crisis we feel. The boldest move today might be the choice to do, well, nothing. We were trained to think freedom means having endless options, more projects, more trips, more decisions. But too much choice can become a cage, an invisible, dangerous one. Our culture's rule is blunt. If you are not producing, you are wasting life. Everything must serve a goal, show a benefit, make a profit. Even a nap must advertise itself as recharging. Even silence is sold as a productivity hack. Meaning is measured in output. Han flips that story. He says true liberty begins when you claim the right not to act, not to strive, not to chase usefulness, simply to be unable and fine with it. We spend years reaching for the power to do, to travel, to build, to win, to choose. That power has hardened into an order. You can, therefore you must. But what if you don't feel like it? What if you're spent? Society's quick verdict is failure. In this script, there is no room for weakness or for the word no. Anything outside non-stop achievement gets labeled laziness. Yet strength might live exactly in that forbidden space. Saying no is its own kind of power. Turning down overload, speed, and excess is a quiet act of rebellion. Choosing not to always upgrade yourself, not grabbing every single opening, not obeying every suggestion, not replying to every ping, daring to turn things down so you can genuinely choose yourself. That no, more than any inability, is a quiet revolt. It snaps the spell of endless output. It cracks the story that you must forever be number one. It hands back something stolen, the simple right to exist without non-stop auditions for worth. When you permit that refusal, an inner shift unfolds. Restless buzzing softens into stillness. The knot of guilt loosens into real presence. The frantic sprint slows into a steady inhale and exhale. You stop chasing your own shadow because you notice you already inhabit this moment, intact. Yet don't romanticize it. This kind of freedom scratches. It asks you to stand before open space and say, I welcome not being everything. I welcome not doing it all. I welcome simply being here. That collides with almost every script you have absorbed. Many get sick attempting liberation, blind to the fact they only switch brands of chains. The hardest move is not stacking more tasks. It is daring to pause, to release, to pronounce, that's enough. Once the little word no appears as a door instead of a wall, layers lift. A light that constant clamor had dimmed starts to glow. A sturdiness emerges that is born not from conquest, but from yielding. A quiet calm shows up only after you stop wrestling yourself. There we meet the deepest recognition in all of this, one you may have sensed without a label. The burnout weighing on you is more than simple fatigue. It signals a broken style of living. It is your inner life calling out. Reaching this point means something within is shouting, maybe silently, maybe muffled, because you grasp, even faintly, that the pattern we inhabit is profoundly off. Hear this clearly. What you feel is not fragility, not incompetence, not lack of willpower. It is a sane reaction to an arrangement that demands what cannot be given and then stamps failure on those who cannot conjure miracles. You are not falling short because you are worn out. You are worn out because a template has pressed you into squeezing every drop of emotional, mental, and spiritual fuel. It has recast each person as a mini factory, a display rack of metrics, a costume of triumph. In the wild chase after an unreachable peak of achievement, what slips away is the very sense of why. Thinkers like Byung-Chul Han underline that burnout is no odd glitch, no rare exception, but the clearest marker of a shared crisis of being. It is not only a few overly tender or messy people collapsing. It is an entire cultural engine built on self-harvesting, worship of optimization, and suspicion of quiet, leisure, inner depth. You are not isolated. That ache you carry, that tiredness that sleep does not cure, that hollow patch even when boxes are ticked, none of it is a personal defect. It is your whole system asking for a slowed rhythm, a fresh angle, another manner of inhabiting the world. And that alternate way starts with a single, potent decision: to stop agreeing to the current pace. Maybe you do not yet see the exit. Maybe these words touched a deep chord and you feel stirred but directionless. That is okay. The opening move is not frantic doing. The opening move is noticing, feeling, granting yourself a clear inward look. No masks, no defenses, no explanations. If you recognize yourself here, if these lines echoed something you didn't realize you were longing to hear, I have a request. Drop a comment. Tell me what is moving inside you. Say whether this struck home. In sharing, we see ourselves. In seeing ourselves, mending begins. If this video resonated with you, then subscribe to our channel because our journey has just begun.